your reaction to the possibility of calling in the National Guard, Mrs. Black?
I think they're asking for trouble. We don't need them bringing tanks and guns into our community and taking away the rights of brown people. Well, a lot of Chicagoans are reminded on a daily basis that they are not as equal as others in affluent neighborhoods. We don't need martial law and Jim Crow in already segregated city. Well, we need to talk more about gun laws. We need to talk more about communities coming together. Congressman, you work in the legislative branch. This is for you. I would like for you to make a promise live on this radio broadcast. I would like for you to swear to support legislation that will make it tougher for people to own guns in this city. Can you do that, Mr. Scarrett?
She's still asking me questions, Zach. I would prefer if she would ask questions.
Right, Mrs. Black, let's take the heat off of Mr. Scarrett for a second. You seem to be very critical of him.
Well, I think it's my right to be critical of men who profess to represent me and my values while they are running for office, but then change their agenda once they are elected. Oh, but Scarrett's not the worst. He's just a nut on a much larger fruit tree, shaking and everything that falls is rotten to its core. Well, I don't have time to shake trees. I'm trying to plant hope. Now, instead of using state and federal dollars to bring in more law enforcement, how about using that money to help somebody get a job or build a community center? How about hiring mentors for these young people? Well, people need vision. They need hope. They don't need another cop putting a gun in their face.
I agree with Mrs. Black to a certain extent. But the sad fact for many young people and adults in this situation, drugs, dealing drugs and gangs are the only way they have of making a living. So, although having a vision is a nice idea, it makes me want to dance under rainbows and ride unicorns. The harsh reality is that certain people are not going to give up their bad habits just because you offer them a decent job or a community center.
Mary, Mrs. Black, I have to agree with Jude on this one. I mean, how are you going to convince businesses to come to a city where you're looking at murder rates that are comparable to the number of people killed in the war in Iraq? Wouldn't help making the streets safe to begin with be priority number one?
You can't help make the streets safe if you don't give the people better options, Zach. Everybody act like instilling hope into these young people is romantic or far-reaching. They act like just sitting down talking to them, all of them is impossible. Well, we forget where we came from. Big Mama didn't play. Most people didn't deal in dirt because they didn't want to bring shame upon their families. Our fathers instilled in us a sense of pride, but we have lost our way somehow. Well, we have convinced ourselves that young people can't be talked to. We have convinced